Hello, welcome back to Puget Sound History and another installment of History in Color. We are finishing off where we left off with Purdy. This is Purdy Part 2. In 1926, Tacoma Power built towers that stretched power lines across Henderson Bay and Purdy Lagoon. There were 4 lattice towers replaced in 2018 by one single pole. On September 29, 1937, the current Purdy Bridge is completed. The reinforced concrete box girder bridge carries State Route 302 over the strait between Henderson Bay and Burley Lagoon. The innovative bridge engineer, Homer Hadley, had a large part in its design, and it was at a time considered the longest bridge of its kind, with a cost of $62,000. The Purdy Bridge is 550 feet long from end to end. It is made up of 5 spans supported by 4 piers. The piers sit on sand-packed gravel. The Portland Dredging Company built it for Pierce County. Washington State Department of Transportation would later buy it. In 1982, it was placed on the National Register of Historic Places. Built in 1947, Peninsula High School was the only high school in the Gig Harbor area until 1979, when Gig Harbor High School opened up. Mark Furman, one of the police officers working the O.J. Simpson case, went to Peninsula for a year before transferring to North Mason in Belfair, Washington. This school is still in use today, nicknamed the Peninsula Pen by some who saw the building's overall look resembled a prison. Now I will comment on some businesses that are gone and some buildings that still remain. H.M. Lawrence & Sons General Store was opened in 1912. It was in the vicinity of the Senex Feed Store on the road to Burley. The building was destroyed by fire in 1933. 14619 Purdy Drive was built in the 1930s as Swinney Bakery. Elbert and Hazel Swinney, the owners, and their son Richard, were survivors of the Narrows Bridge collapse. Richard was, until his passing, the last of the survivors of that fateful day. In 1945, Keith Swinney was elected as fire commissioner for Purdy. The bakery building is now home to Purdy Chiropractic Office and has been since at least 1988. Bob Goodenough built his house in 1936 at 13500 Goodenough Drive. The road and the creek that run next to his property were named after him. Purdy Builders was in Purdy for at least 3 decades. The Purdy Clubhouse, built in 1947 and closed in 1998, was once a hub of local action. Built in 1956 and originally called Flo's Bar, renamed the Flotation Device Pub and Grill in 1977 by new owner Jerry Walston. In the 1940s, there was an old Pullman railroad car converted to a diner. Known as the Diner, it sat right where the Purdy Creek empties into Puget Sound. It is said that in 1947, Ellery Cram barged it into Purdy and set it up as a diner and sold it to Signo Uddenberg in 1951. Signo called it Sig's Diner. Pearl Heaton was the cook for Mr. Cram, and it is said she made the best pies. She went on to open her own restaurant this same year. Sometime after that, Huey Olmsted bought it and owned it until the early 1960s. It is thought to be under the shopping center now, used as landfill. This will be a subject I hope to revisit as I turn up more information. Another diner, possibly more well known as more are alive who remember it, was owned by Pearl Heaton. She had a long history in Purdy. She grew up in a tiny house at the Purdy end of the bridge. In 1951, Pearl's by the Sea Diner was built at the site which is now known as 13802 Purdy Drive. In 1962, someone stole the payphone from the diner. As time went by, it was converted to a full restaurant. It was operating as Pearl's in 1971 but I know it was there through the 1980s. I will try to dig up more information on this for a future video, as it was a very famous place at the time of its operation. Wayne Hogan bought Pearls. He also owned Bob's Burger Barn in Tacoma and Captain Nemo's in University Place. When he died in 2016, it was left to his children. It is now called Mossimo's. I went there once. It was a lot more upscale than Pearls was. The home style feeling was gone. Chevron, which is still there today, located at 14317 Purdy Drive, was built by Henry and Pearl Pedersen in at least 1949 and was purchased by Paul Fatland in 1963 and renamed Paul's Chevron. It was named Paul's Chevron until at least 1985. This building is still a Chevron to this day. Hempfield's radio and TV service was a staple of Purdy for many years. It was there in at least 1951 to at least 1980. As with all these businesses and any information in this video, please feel free to comment any information you know or anything I may have missed, or just comment to tell me what you think of the video. 1958, Eric Hayes opened a nursery on the same land as his two-story Dutch colonial home. The home had a great view of the woods and garden plots from the large porch. He grew many different plants and shrubs. Located 7 minutes from the Narrows Bridge, it was in a great location. By the making of this film, I still had not found out when it was out of business, although I'm pretty sure it was there in the 1980s. It could also be seen from Highway 16. Mac's Stop and Shop was built in 1963 for O.E. McAllister at a cost of $40,000. It was sold and renamed Bridgeway Market in 1980, and that has been the name ever since. Although it is still the same 1963 building, it received a facelift in 2005 and looks like a much different store today. Westwind Motel, built in 1967, is still going strong with motel rooms and apartments. The Texaco gas station has been there since at least 1967. Where West Bay Auto Parts was AA Auto Parts in the 1970s, but by the 1980s it was called Purdy Auto Parts. We will end this installment with the women's prison at Purdy, opened in 1971, and by 1972 6 inmates had already made a daring escape. In 1974 the building caught fire and caused $16,000 in damage. By 1976, the prison was already overcrowded. In 1992, it was expanded. In 1996, a chapel was added, the framing done by Bates Technical School students. And in 1998, it was expanded again. The prison still remains today. As I said in the opening, this is just a quick taste of the history of Purdy, Washington. I hope to come back and spend time on different families who made the town. Also, a side note that Purdy is not a town. It has a Gig Harbor address, although quite a ways from Gig Harbor. Please like and subscribe to see more videos in the future. Now I will leave you with a few other random photos that didn't make it into the movie.